The information and views expressed by our host or guests on the Unlock Potential podcast are their own, and not a substitute for professional medical or fitness advice. Always consult with qualified healthcare or fitness professionals before starting any new exercise program or making changes to your current routine.
This tool is going to help us gradually untie those energetic imbalances, allowing that belly fat to start to come off, allowing us to balance out that energy within.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Unlock Potential. I'm Brian Delaney. Our focus this season is fitness. I'll be joined by Dr. Corey Duvall, who's going to guide us through his protocol for getting into your best shape so we can live our best lives and serve others well.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Unlock Potential, but not just another episode of Unlock Potential. It is a very special episode, and what makes this special is not only my guest today, who's been bringing you along this journey with teaching you more about fitness and your own journey around that and how to get the tools and the frameworks. We've been putting a lot of content, tools, frameworks in your hands already, but today is a day when we get to talk about something that Corey and I have been working on behind the scenes for quite a while. That is, we believe, going to revolutionize and push forward the best ideas that are out there in the fitness industry and really bring some ideas that aren't there currently. And that's the whole reason our relationship got started. So, Corey, talk to the people about what we're here to talk about today, because I'm super excited. I know you are too.
Yeah, certainly, Brian. Starting this spring, we're going to be releasing the Stay Active Method app. The app is going to help guide each and every person through their daily fitness journey, helping them check into what their body is feeling, and then follow a prescription based upon that sensation. That is going to, in the back end, go through some algorithms and calculators to exactly adjust their prescription so that they can follow the perfect prescription for them.
That's awesome. So no matter who you are, when you are, where you are, you're going to have access to this toolkit. Exactly. Because it's not about the gym you go to, it's about who you bring there, right? And perfect. That's you, right? That's you. And I think we need to talk about what makes this app so special and really what makes what we've been delivering, because we've been bringing a ton of content, but a lot of people don't realize that this is kind of this is the voice in the wilderness when it comes to fitness. I've gotten to realize that under your tutelage and under your mentorship and coaching, and so many other people that we're surrounded with here in the gym and people using it remotely have. But most people who are watching this today don't even know how your practices, how the things you've come to understand and help other people to really grab a hold of are different. So what would you say are some of those things that you really notice, pay attention to, that other people might be ignorant of, miss, or just not really prioritize?
That's a great question, Brian. So CrossFit got started by helping people realize that they need to use their full body for exercise. And rehab was really at that time focused on body parts. So if you had knee pain, you had a knee problem, you focused on the tissues around the knee. If you had shoulder pain or a shoulder problem, you focused on the problems around the shoulder. But the functional end of CrossFit and the anatomical end of rehab really needed to be combined. And the way we combine those is what I call functional strength balance. So instead of shoulder strength, it's what can I lift off the ground? What can I get to my shoulders? What can I get overhead? Now, let me walk you through this a little bit.
That would be great.
So I put a weight on the bar and I say to you, hey, take this weight off the ground, get it up overhead, control it back down and do that a few times.
Okay.
You say, well, I have a shoulder problem. I say, okay, we're going to do this in a way that feels good for your shoulder. And as you go through that process, you adjust how you need to, and we keep adding weight. And eventually we reach a point where you're unable to do that, or it starts to increase that shoulder discomfort. I say, okay, no problem. Now we're going to keep that weight at your shoulders, and I want you to get down, sit on the ground, and stand back up. And so we start to see how much weight can you hold at your shoulders, sit down on the ground, and stand back up. You don't need to move or adjust the shoulders. You just need to hold the weight there. And then eventually you're not able to get all the way down to the ground and back up without any kind of shoulder discomfort or maybe some discomfort in other places. So we say, okay, we're going to add a little bit more weight, but all I want you to do is pick it up off the ground up to your hips. And so we start adding weight until you're not able to, or we start to get some discomfort in other areas. What we have now are 3 different activities that we know how strong you're at. And there's an ideal ratio between those activities, which means you might have a shoulder problem, but you're really good at putting weights up overhead and comparatively not as good at picking them up off the ground.
Hypothetically, of course, you wouldn't be talking about my personal situation here.
Not today. And so we know based on that, we don't need to focus on your shoulder. We need to focus on you getting weights off the ground. And so as you start to develop that foundational strength to pick a weight up off the ground, naturally your posture changes. As your posture changes, the support mechanism of the rib cage under the shoulder blade starts to change, which gives that shoulder support. Now, when you go to put that same weight overhead later on, your whole body is different and the shoulder feels fine. We didn't need to focus on the shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't need to focus on the one body part. You were able to focus on those 3 domains of movement.
Exactly.
And making those adjustments at the weights. And that's part of what we're super excited about is normally in order to have those adjustments made, you would have to have this one-on-one connection and presence with somebody else. But that's what we're changing. That's how we're changing the game, because we do believe that people encounter a variety of different things as they go throughout the process, and that their journey is their journey. But we need to build tools that respond to that journey.
Exactly.
Right? So that they're not just out there. And I think that really brings me to my next question here. When it comes to body composition, I know a lot of you out there who are watching this, that's a big focus. It's what we see in the mirror every day. It's what we encounter. It's like, oh, I don't want to show belly fat or back of the legs. We have these problem areas, or we've looked at a BMI scale and we're attempting to get there, right? But how does what you notice about those movements, how does that affect people with concerns about body composition? How does that answer those questions?
That's good. So body composition has 3 main pieces. One piece is the balance of musculature through your body. Do you have more muscle mass on your upper body than your lower body? Do you have more muscle mass on the front of your legs or the back of your legs? Are you overdeveloped in your muscle mass on your trunk compared to the back of your shoulders? These imbalances can change your posture. And so if we have the right tools to adjust that balance over time, we can naturally adjust our posture and the balance of muscle mass improves. Now, a second piece is that we have body fat storage or stored energy that can be increased along the trunk, or it can be increased evenly throughout the body. And oftentimes, if we get into imbalances between too much intensity, telling our body that we're losing the war, or not enough intensity and avoiding the war altogether, we can start to add extra energy to our torso. And so this tool is going to help us gradually untie those energetic imbalances, allowing that belly fat to start to come off, allowing us to balance out that energy within. Now, another piece of this is that there is not just functional strength balance, but functional energetic balance.
Okay, tell me more about that.
That's the high weight versus high rep argument.
Okay.
Some people say, hey, lower repetitions for higher weights is better. Other people say, no, higher repetitions at lower weights is better. And so there's this constant pull between those two. We have some calculations that give us some idea of what a balance structure is. And this has back-end calculators in order to help make sure that we're doing enough of the heavyweight low rep and enough of the lower weight higher repetition to not store extra body fat on the trunk and to allow us to find that lean, healthy physique that we're looking for.
I think that's one of the incredibly unique parts about this is it doesn't just talk about muscular development. It doesn't just talk about the aesthetic. It doesn't just talk about fat loss. It doesn't just talk about recovery from injury. This is a program for whole people, right? And you know, one thing that all the whole people who I've seen grow before have in common, they all hit plateaus. And I've had that same experience. I've hit the plateau, that stagnation, and when it's not dealt with appropriately, it can become a toxic event that leads to that yo-yo situation where when those energetic controls or the weight pieces aren't managed properly, right? It can go all over the place, right? And we hit that plateau and just end up in the same place with less will than we started with. So how does the Stay Active Method app address that, and how does your protocol really look at that to understand it?
That's a great question. So plateaus are about perspective.
Okay.
And part of the perspective that we need to understand is a concept I call exercise half-life. And what that means is if I give you an exercise, how long until your improvement on that exercise starts to fall off?
Okay.
So if you're really good at one particular exercise and I give it to you, I might not need to offer that to you for another month and you're still just as good at it. 3 months later, it might start to fall off. And so we need to say, okay, every month we need to be hitting that. But another exercise, you might need to be doing every single week in order to make some progress on it.
I want to pause here because this is where predictive programming creates problems, right? And you were talking a little bit about this in last week's episode with the war and famine. This idea of top down, what I think I should do, rather than bottom up, what my body is giving me signals to do and how I've become tuned in to listen to those signals.
Exactly.
And I think that's super key and vital. I would love for you to tell me more about that responsive programming and how that helps people to bust out of that. Because for me, it's like, this is what I have to do. I know it before I go to the gym. I'm going to be in this rut. And it has everything to do with what's on paper, but nothing really to do with listening and becoming more connected to not only my appetite, but where my body is and the different things that I need in order to achieve the goals that I have.
Exactly. So periodically, we need to look at that long-term vision. Where am I headed to be the fittest human that I can be so that I'm maximally helpful to others?
Okay.
But the only way to get there is to take the appropriate next step. So we're regularly bringing ourselves back to the moment. And so when we get into what we perceive as a plateau, it's often just a perception because we're losing sight of where we are on that long-term journey. And what can we do when we feel like we're in a plateau? It's not exercise less. It's not take a week of rest. It's not I'm burned out, I need to stop. It's I need to show up. And so one of the key features that we're going to track in the app is exercise frequency. How often am I showing up for myself? And so when I am in a plateau, I can go, oh, I'm supposed to show up today. Oh, I'm supposed to show up today. Oh, I'm supposed to show up today, over and over. The next thing we need to pay attention to is exercise volume.
Okay.
And so that's how much are you doing in a given day? As you show up and as you put in work, you're getting credit for time. And as long as you're showing up and putting in that work, you're going to get credit for that time. And so in those days where you're like, I'm not seeing progress, you check back in, you're like, oh, but I am taking steps. I'm showing up and I'm doing enough work. Now, a feature of the app is going to show you how much of each exercise style you're doing. Because we've talked in the past about that comfort zone and effort zone and making sure both of those are growing so you can make long-term progress.
Yes.
Well, what we perceive as a plateau is that we've reached the limit of the effort zone that we can push. And we need to grow that comfort zone, which means stamina work, steady, backing off, but still moving forward, lowering the intensity a little, but still pushing yourself along. And so you'll get to see that your body is not plateauing, it's going into more stamina work, into more flexibility work in order to grow that comfort zone And then as the comfort zone grows over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see, oh, I'm getting some energy again. Boom, push through, and you've busted through the plateau.
If you're tired of feeling low on energy and settling for the scraps, it's time for your personal revolution. We are helping people go from the person that they have been to the person they were truly meant to be, and helping people get to the next level in their life, their business, and their relationships. Follow us. What you're talking about there is something that I've experienced, and what I notice, whether it's making progress anywhere, we always hit the same things. Our perspective goes from, and you definitely have experienced this. This may be familiar to you as well. Our perspective goes from, look at how far I've come, to look at how far I still have to go, and knowing that there's work behind you, but hoping there's magic in front of you, right? And so instead, what we do is we keep a realistic plot line that's responsive through that app to provide you with the individual coaching that's not exclusive of that experience, but that's actually inclusive of the whole person in that experience, because that's not only you, that's us. That's us, and that's who this app is built for. It's not built just for somebody like you or just for somebody like me. It's built for us, and that's a big deal. So we have this personalized focus in that app, and we have the responsiveness, right? So there is a lot of focus on the individual. So, but we know how important community is. We know that the two things that are going to indicate where we end up in the next 5 years are the books that we read and the people who we hang out with, right? And so how do we go from individual focus to that necessary ingredient of community and camaraderie, even when somebody's working remotely?
So CrossFit was founded to build camaraderie and community. CrossFit gyms were about creating that shared responsiveness to elevating yourself to an elite performance for what you're capable of. And it was a beautiful shift from headphones on, head down, cardio bunnies here, bodybuilders over there. It was a really nice blend of those two to say, hey, let's build a community that can thrive. At the same time, it can get skewed into everybody doing the exact same thing every single day. And that's where those communities start to struggle. And I've seen them go in one direction usually, shared suffering.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that exercise killed me. Oh, that workout sucked. Oh, and you're all kind of bound together, suffering a little bit. Now that suffering is the survival mode, not the thriving. They're going in and they're willing to be in with their buddies. They're willing to be in with their friends. They're willing to encourage each other on and cheer the person who is still going through the workout after they've finished, which is beautiful and encouraging. And at the same time, everybody doing the exact same thing every single day is not ideal for anybody. And so what we want to do is we want to empower coaches. We want to empower community leaders to give that individual prescription an elevated dose while still being able to get that camaraderie group. And so there is the daily original workout, or the option for community builders to still prescribe their group a workout of the day. There's an opportunity for them to still offer that up to their crew. But when so-and-so needs a little extra work on their shoulder to overhead heavy, and somebody else needs some of their squatting for higher repetition, they can both do those, then come together for that workout of the day.
Yeah, that's great, because that daily original workout, that's part of the app. We have you have developed through your methodology certain prescriptions for when people do the limber test for how they feel, and everybody who's getting those responses can group up and do the same thing.
Exactly.
Shared struggle, right? Shared victory, shared language, shared practice. It's a whole piece for those people who are at that spot.
Exactly.
But we don't want to leave people in this rigid position where they're not able to adapt their gym, their practice, their recommendation to that individual's needs at that time.
Exactly.
Yep, that's powerful.
Now, the way this app is going to really excel in that is that it's going to take that workload off of that coach. It's going to take the workload off of that community builder. most people own a CrossFit gym and get into coaching and guidance and helping people because of their skill set, which is building that camaraderie, building that community space, building that shared excitement and victory. And so my skill set was designing the calculators in the back end, designing the algorithms that'll help people flow through. And to really sum this up, I'm going to give you an example of a wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers that I worked with. This individual was 8 years in the league by this point, which means he's been through a ton.
Yeah.
A ton. He was a high-level cornerback, defensive back in Arizona, and then has made his way through a couple of teams on the league, and he was in Charlotte for 1 year. And he almost retired that year because of an Achilles injury.
Wow.
Now, Achilles ruptures occur when it starts to degenerate in the tissue. So what is normally a bunch of parallel fibers get mashed up and they start to create this gummy-like substance, and it fills and grows. And then it ruptures.
Okay.
And that's typically when athletes end their career. Now, he was having a lot of Achilles pain and trying to manage that. And so when I saw that and started working with him a few days a week, the first thing I had him do was squat. And as we started going through some heavy back squats, he was told that he shouldn't back squat. I said, oh, why were you told you shouldn't back squat? Because he had hip pain. Oh, well, I looked at this gentleman's upper body muscle mass and his lower body muscle mass, and he had depleted lower body muscle mass, but still good upper body muscle mass, because he had been told, don't do these things that strain your lower body. Well, now every time he's running on a play, his upper body feels good, and his Achilles is getting beat up because his muscle mass isn't there to support it. So we start him squatting. And as he squats over the first couple of weeks of preseason, he went from 95 pounds for a full range back squat to 185 to 245. This is the first few weeks of preseason.
Wow.
So from hip pain at 95 pounds to 245, like, yeah, that feels good. And so that rapid of a growth cannot be predicted. But I was responsive and just offering, hey, where are you going to get to today? The app is going to allow that. Now, the next thing it offers is that I compared what he could lift off the ground to those squats. So what he could lift off the ground was 205 that first day. So back squat 95, deadlift 205. Well, I give him a bunch of squats because he needs more of those, and it ramps up so quickly, I went back to the deadlift. He was still only capable of 205. When he went to 225, he started feeling some back pain. I was like, oh. So he had gone from squat deficient to squat dominant in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And if you're not responsive to that, because most programs are 6 weeks long, or people just aren't even paying attention to that and just giving him both, he's not going to success. He's not going to succeed. So now we start doing more lifting work over the next 3 weeks. And as he's going through deadlift work, he goes from 205 to 315 in 2 weeks.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. Like big jumps.
Again, too quick for any sort of 6-week or preset program or any of that top-down. Like, even if you're entering into the gym, trying to make that adjustment while you're still going top-down is nearly impossible, especially without the support of tools or coaches.
Exactly. And so now, as I'm going through those sessions with him, I say to him, hey, why are you not doing these squats and deadlifts? Oh, back in college, I hurt my back on some deadlifts, and so they told me to stop deadlifting. So he got rid of the deadlifting because he had hurt himself. He'd kept up with the squatting for a while, but with that imbalance, the squats started to hurt him too, so they took those away. And now he's left with no deadlifts, no back squats, and still trying to survive in the league.
Wow.
Well, the third thing I asked him to do was carry some weights. So squat with it, lift it off the ground. Once you have it off the ground, let's carry them. Over that whole time period, his ability to carry was still super low. So he could carry 180 pounds. He could get 205 off the ground, but he could only carry 180 pounds. So he's squatting super low, 95 pounds. He's deadlifting 205, and he's carrying between those two.
Okay.
His back squat shoots up, his deadlift shoots up, and in that same time, his carries barely improved. And so exercise half-life meant we got to keep on those carries more frequently. So I increased the frequency of the carries after that first 5-week period.
Okay.
Squats went up real fast, deadlift went up real fast. Let's keep up with the carries and a little more frequency. Well, now he starts limping and altering. Now he starts noticing some firing of the old ankle injuries that he had. Now he starts noticing some imbalances through the torso.
Okay.
And then we're getting into some real deep work for him.
And without the support and without that wisdom on, you can think, oh, well, the work that I'm doing is causing these injuries, rather than uncovering awarenesses that I didn't have that are actually the symptoms that are causing the problems that I'm readily presented with, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where people get into this work and be like, oh, well, I must have hurt myself, or I must have tweaked this, it's like, what if your awareness is actually increasing? And this is part of the pathway, right?
Exactly.
The path in wasn't easy. How is the path out going to be easy? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now we start increasing the frequency of his carries. And over the remainder of that season, we'd touch on the heavy squats once every few weeks. We'd touch on the heavy lifts once every few weeks. And we were carrying 3 days a week, heavy and regular. No Achilles surgery, which had been recommended. No Achilles injury. And he played well enough in that season to get traded in the off season and extend his career even a little bit farther for the playoff bonus that year.
Check out the official Unlock Potential store, where inspiration meets style. Explore our exclusive collection of gear inspired by the transformational messages straight from our Unlock Potential podcast. From trendy apparel that embraces the power of positivity to accessories that fuel your motivation. We've got something for every go-getter. Spread the messages of empowerment, energy, and motivation that you get from the Unlock Potential podcast by grabbing your gear today. When you hear that, and if you're resonating, you're saying, well, I've experienced some of these things in the past, or I've experienced the frustration of grow, plateau, go back, like revert back to where I was with less willpower. If you've been experiencing some of those things, doesn't it make a little bit more sense now? Doesn't it make sense? Because you may not have had a protocol, a plan, the proper coaching, the proper frameworks to deal with the plateaus, to address the challenges with body composition without being over responsive to a symptom rather than a need, right? To be into that place where you can see beyond what you actually see. So I hope it's really starting to put that puzzle together with, oh, it kind of makes sense where you've been frustrated. It kind of makes sense why you would want to give up. It kind of makes sense why you're in this place of confusion and you've tried so many different things. But here's what I know is, if you're thinking that to yourself, that means you still have that spark, and we have the answer. We have the answer. And it's not an answer for some. It's not an answer for, oh, if you're like this, if you're young and you're an athlete, or if you're old and you're immobile, or if you currently are super active and you're a bodybuilder, or you're training for some sort of fitness regime. It's like, this is a very precise way of working and responding to the individual's needs, no matter where they are on their own life and success journey.
Exactly.
And so I just want to encourage you, if you've been like that before, do your best to leave some of those prejudices behind, to leave some of those things behind, and the rest, this framework is so good. This app, and my experience with it, lets me know that we don't need you to leave it all behind, because I still had plenty of that, and we were able to metabolize that. And what the back of the shirt says, exercise the demons. I was able to exercise the demons along the way, right?
Yes.
And so that's impactful. And I'm extremely excited for people to get this in their hands. And more than anything, I'm excited for those people who are running the gyms right now, who have gotten into that place where they went from focusing on people to being bogged down with paperwork and programming.
Uh-huh.
I'm excited for those practitioners, whether you're a life coach, a business coach, you currently do PT work with your clients. You're currently in a space of even, you're a psychologist. You're working with people,
Yep.
and you have those patients who you haven't been able to bust through those plateaus, or you want to get them started off on the right foot.
Yeah.
Isn't it time to stop doing things that are outside of your field? Stop with the administrative crap that is necessary, but it's not really your work.
Exactly.
And start putting the tools and resources in people's hands that are going to allow the rest of the work that you do, where your expertise is, where your superpower is, to be way more impactful and have residual results that people live with long term, and that continue to build your base and community of people you serve.
Yeah.
And that's because what I see there is, I see that we get to have access to a whole lot of people who are already doing the great things, the great work in this world with great people who have that drive, and they deserve a better solution. They deserve the work that they're doing to get results.
Yes. Results that match your effort and guidance that meets your needs. That was what I was looking for as we designed this app, and that's what we've got. It's going to be released in the spring. I'm super excited.
Yeah, so excited about this. We're looking forward to it. We're going to continue to talk about it. Our media team is going to continue to do a great job following this as this continues to evolve. We're going to be working with individuals who are excited about this. So if you have a practice right now and you're excited about this, hit us in the message, DM us, whatever the platform is that you're hearing this on. Reach out to us. Make sure to get in contact with us. It's not that hard. We're pretty easy to find, because we want to work with you to make sure that this works in your sphere. We know it will, and we're going to build it with the people who are the most involved from the beginning. And we're so excited for you to have a new tool in your hands, not only for you, but for all the people that you get to work with and impact on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis.
Exactly.
And that starts this spring, but our work starts now,
Yes,
right?
brother.
Our work starts now. You've been doing the work. We've been set up. This is the time where we get to actually start to really shine a light on all the work that you've done, all the experience, all the help that you've brought to other people, but we get to take the barriers off. Right?
Exactly.
The borders are down. We can now impact people, not just in North Carolina, not just in the US, but globally.
Yes.
And we're going to do that with the help of great partners who have a vision and a commitment to their fitness and helping other people get there as well.
Exactly.
So excited and fired up to be working and entering this new stage and this next level. And so fired up for you to have an opportunity to join us, have an opportunity to experience what I've experienced. I did not feel good. I did not feel good 2 years ago when I was 40 pounds heavier. I didn't feel good 2 years ago when I constantly was trying to do something and get fitness, but I really didn't understand what it was. I didn't know where the coaching was, and most of that was amateur at best. I was frustrated. I found myself in a place where my desire was big, but my resources were small, and I needed something to flip the script on that. I want you to have that experience. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to put Corey right on your telephone. We're going to put this protocol at your fingertips, and we're going to give you the tools that you need to get the results that you deserve for the work that you do. So thanks so much for joining us this week. Go back and watch the War and Famine episode. I was rewatching that. I get to be here when all these things get taped. I was rewatching that. That was awesome. What a great framework for life, for business, for all of that. So make sure and like and subscribe. Share this podcast with other people. Make sure to become a Patreon member. Get involved, get committed, and join us as we continue to go to the next level. Thanks so much, Corey.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, this is Brian Delaney with Unlock Potential. I want to invite you to join our Patreon, where we release to you exclusive content so that you can get to the next level of your life and have the tools necessary to build the life of your dreams, have the relationships that you desire, and truly be a part of a community of people who not only desire growth, but are making it happen now. We'll see you there. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Unlock Potential. For exclusive content, make sure to subscribe to our Patreon. Follow us across all socials at @TheBrianDelaney and visit our website at thebriandelaney.com to shop our gear and see what's coming up next.